gather not only to launch the strategy and implementation framework, but to reinforce our dedication to co-creating solutions to Zambia's environmental challenges through the environmental protection dialogue. As we reflect on the journey that brought us this far, this significant milestone, it is essential to acknowledge the profound impact of the environmental protection dialogue since its inception in 2020.
A platform such as EPD becomes very important because it's a platform where the consensus on how the 30 by 30 program in Zambia should look like. So, Madam, I'm lobbying that one of the subsequent discussions could look at that. What is the 30 by 30 agenda for Zambia? Because it's important that it's locally led. So far, most people that have been having a discussion on 30 by 30 are coming from outside. So the importance for me personally of supporting institutions like CEJ is because you have the ability to mobilize local voices, local action, local perspectives on what needs to be done to secure the environment. So I really commend you for the leadership that you provided already and the impact that you're having, whether it's the campaign you led on stopping the chop, whether it's the EPD, whether it's the climate change work that you have led on. Our task is to continue to support you, to make sure that through this implementation framework, the impact you have achieved can be scaled up. My hope is that the implementation framework is going to give us pointers on where we need to go. One of the very important things that you've done under the EPD initiative is bringing together our traditional leadership. As we know, our political system is democratic, so there could be change of governments every 5 years, right? But our commitment to environmental protection transcends those things, right? And the leadership, the structures that give us some kind of constant direction is the traditional leadership. And they're in charge of this important resource, but they haven't really had the opportunity to bring their ideas together to see how collectively they can save the country. So I want to thank you for creating the Traditional Leaders Caucus, because it has served as a platform for a common interpretation of environmental laws, but also for identification of actions that need to happen to make sure that we deliver environmental sustainability and a green economy for the country.
As traditional leaders, we stand ready to play our part in implementing these resolutions and ensuring their success. We call upon our esteemed partners, both in the public and private sectors, to join hands with us in supporting this noble endeavor of implementing these resolutions. The challenges we have faced are vast, but the collective strength of our collaboration can bring about meaningful change. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, let us seize this opportunity to be the stewards of our environment, the guardians of our traditional lands, and the champions of a sustainable future for the generations to come.
The launch of the framework is crucial for a number of reasons. Firstly, it signifies a transition from dialogue to concrete strategic action. Secondly, the framework launch underscores the importance of accountability and transparency by formalizing the EPD strategy and the implementation plan. CEJ and its partners are making a public commitment to the goals and objectives set forth. This transparency is vital in building trust among stakeholders and ensuring that our actions align with the principles of good governance. Thirdly, the launch is a celebration of collaboration and partnership, CEJ recognizes the collective efforts of all stakeholders involved in the EPDs and the TLC.
In terms of the implementation period, it will run from 2024 to 2026. And just to mention on this, that already we have 2 partners that are committed to the implementation. The Bread for the World Germany, through the project, the RISE project, they contribute 10,000 euros annually. That brings us to 30,000 in the next 3 years. And then also through the European Union, the Strengthening Environmental Protection Rights Project, the EU has committed 20,000 euros annually for the next 3 years, which is like 60,000. We are hoping that more stakeholders will come on board, they will follow suit to see that the implementations of the resolutions are actually achieved. Yes, CEJ initiated the EPD, but this is a platform for all of us, and when it comes to the implementation, would require partners to be part of the implementation. So we are going to have what we are calling an advisory committee of the implementation, and then also we are going to have an implementing consortium. So the advisory committee, this will comprise a Minister of Green Economy and Environment, local government, 2 cooperating partners, 2 private sector, and 2 traditional leaders. In terms of the implementing consortium, CEJ and 5 other partners yet to be selected. So before the end of the year, CEJ is going to release a call for expression of interest, inviting environmental organizations, private sector, that would want to be part of the implementation. We do not want to handpick. We don't want to be accused. CEJ just pointed WWF, EVOS, and so we want to invite so that people willingly write and commit that they'll be part of the implementation. And it's our desire and in the plan that 2024 will be, as an implementing consortium, will be reporting on the implementation in the EPD 2024. And I must mention that we've already started planning for the 2024 EPD, and it will be very interesting.
Even within this strategy and implementation framework, the first thing we realize is that there are what we may say sufficient laws, maybe. There are laws already put in place, mining, environmental protection, and so on. But what we find is lacking, and which you probably also have noticed, is sufficient enforcement of the laws, okay? We have the legal framework there, and in fact, in our detailed strategy and implementation framework, you will see that we've actually mapped the legal laws pertaining to and relevant to the resolutions that have come out of all the EPDs so far held. But the question is, what is the enforcement like? Is it sufficient? And we see that it's not sufficient. So in designing our activities, and I'm not referring specifically to illegal mining because that's not something which is entirely within our control, but generally because this question points to, as I said, the legal framework. I'm just broadly responding. So in our activities and in our outputs and whatever, we envisage a situation where CEJ and other partners will contribute to improving enforcement.
The EPD and the TLC are no longer events. These are programs, because now we need to implement the resolutions and we want to see the impact and the action, so that come EPD 2024 in October, we'll be able to report to the plenary of what has been done. We've been meeting for the last 4 years. We have come up with action-oriented interventions, very strategic actions. So it's now time for us to go on the ground, work with different stakeholders, and we are inviting all of you to be part of the implementation, because we work together, we win together, and not only CEJ. So just to also mention that a dedicated program account for the EPD will be opened with APSA, which we are now in advanced stage, and that is an account that will be used for the EPD funds.
CEJ, there's an advisory board, and the constituents of that advisory board was mentioned. You have the traditional leaders, you have people from government, You have CSO also on that advisory board. The whole idea is to manage the funds that will be allocated solely for the implementation of that strategy. They and other technical people that we playing part, they will then lead us into who amongst ourselves moving forward. CEJ and other partners are going to implement the issues that are outlined in that strategy. We all have varied expertise in this room. Like the issue that Your Highness is talking about, legal issues, we have lawyers, and I don't know if you've noticed, but in the recent past, we have seen the voices of legal personnel coming on board in the environment sector, helping the advocates, harnessing it even further. So the core here is we all know, when we look at that strategy, what are some of the key areas where we feel, as this organization, as a particular entity, when we get on board on the implementation of the strategy, we want to see certain things aligning with this and this to be done. This is why CEJ came with the initiative that this strategy will not be financed by a particular entity. That can be done. We can lobby for funds from one of the institutions, but it won't make sense. We want each and every one of us to commit to that strategy. It can either be in kind, it can either be through financial support, it can either be through a project that you're implementing that can address certain objectives or outcomes that we want to see in that strategy, and then link it to the advisory report, and then see how that strategy can be furnished in that order, and then have reports being given to each and every EPD that comes on board.
This is an existential threat that is affecting everyone and needs the same attention that we have given to all pandemics, that we have given to all crises. I think we all have just come from one very serious pandemic, COVID, which everyone recognizes that at least everyone had a role to play to ensure that you don't continue to transmit, you don't cause damage to your neighbor, you get vaccinated to protect your neighbor and yourself as well. So this is the type of commitment that we are seeking through dialogue. So if you look at all development models that emanate from dialogue, you can see that dialogue is one tool that is needed for us to engender sustainability.
The environment is not okay. We want a Zambia that is sustainably developed, and once you mismanage the environment, then everything else is out of alignment. So you and I, the church, other stakeholders, we need to work together. And this is a platform we can use. We don't need to reinvent the wheel, but let's also take note of other platforms that are existing so that at the end of the day, we are all saying the same thing. We are singing from the same hymn sheet. Together, we will build the Zambia we want to see. I have that hope. I have that firm conviction. But if we continue to work in isolation, it's not possible, because we continue to talk to each other, about each other, but we must talk with each other and work together. We love you by choice and by force, but remember, we need to work together. Bring our expertise, our capacities, our reach. We are present where some of you may not be present, and we will do better when we bring all these resources together for the good of Zambia. It is possible. We must work and live together. God bless you all, and a big thank you to CEJ. Thank you.